Fly, Eagles, fly. Philadelphia Eagles Now is presented by True Classic Tees, menswear for men of all shapes and sizes. 25% off your order if you use the promo code CHAT at trueclassictees.com/chat. We'll tell you more about them coming up around the corner. So another loaded show on the docket here on Philadelphia Eagles Now with a lot of really important notes that we have to get to. Some good injury news on Andre Dillard, which is of course notable because of that injury to Jordan Mailata and along the offensive line to Isaac Seumalo as well. Hassan Reddick named Defensive Player of the Week in the NFC. Every single week this year, an Eagle has been named to that accolade list. And should the Eagles play Trey Sermon a little bit more, considering how he looked against the Jacksonville Jaguars in limited action, and the fact that he brings that physical force to that running back spot that they kind of lack right now at that running back position. We begin, though, with Andre Dillard. So let's get you caught up here on the latest. This morning, the Eagles announcing that they opened up his 21-day practice window. We'll explain that here in just a second as to what those necessary details mean. That does mean there is a chance that he could play on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals as the Eagles look to push that record to 5-0 if Jordan Mailata cannot play. Now, Mailata on that pick six from Andre Cisco in the first quarter of that game on Sunday injured his shoulder on the return, and his status going into this game somewhat unknown. So what does that 21-day practice window mean? It means that Andre Dillard is still on IR, and the 21-day practice window allows him to practice without him individually counting toward the 53-man roster. So moving forward, now you know what that means. And as for Dillard's injury, he suffered that fractured arm. He underwent surgery, but he has been out of a cast since mid-September. Now, a couple of things at play here. Does he have the stamina built up to play at left tackle, where it requires a lot of stamina going up against a defensive line that does feature J.J. Watt? That's a big question for Andre Dillard. We know that he can play, and he's one of the better backup left tackles in the NFL. Is he going to be a long-term starter once he inevitably leaves the Philadelphia Eagles after this year so that he can get more reps and more playing time? We'll see. But Mailata missed some time last year, and I thought that Dillard did a really good job in filling in for him. 340 total snaps for him. 7 penalties, which isn't great, but keep in mind that Jalen Hurts last year, this year as a quarterback, does run around a lot in the pocket. 1 sack allowed, which is actually pretty good when you factor in the mobility from Jalen Hurts. 1 hit allowed, 20 pressures, which isn't great, but I thought that Andre Dillard made some strides forward because his career got off to a rocky start. He had said that physically and mentally he wasn't fit to play in the National Football League. He's made the necessary changes. If Andre Dillard cannot play, I still think the Eagles are in a really good spot. Why is that? Because they have great depth along this offensive line. By the way, Landon Dickerson, the top-rated guard in the NFL, hasn't given up any pressures. You combine that with Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson just playing out of this world, and Jack Driscoll at left tackle filling in for Mailata last week because Dillard wasn't obviously active because he's still on IR. I thought he displayed some really good things. Sua Opeta on a couple of really big running plays, especially some plays that led to that touchdown. I thought he played really well. So with both of those replacements, Isaac Seumalo also banged up with Jordan Mailata. I do think this offensive line for Philadelphia, with the best offensive line coach in the NFL and Jeff Stoutland, is in a good position to potentially get that record to remain undefeated. And some might be thinking, a lot of injuries in this game. We talked about those injuries along the offensive line. Avonte Maddox still hurt. Darius Slay, he might be a game-time decision, and this isn't a good spot for the Philadelphia Eagles. Around the corner, I'm going to explain why I think the Eagles can still win this football game, even though they are depleted at a couple of positions. As I mentioned off the top of the show, True Classic Tees is Philadelphia Eagles Now presenting sponsor for today's show, and I love True Classic because their clothing is made with every man in mind. You'll get that quality, that really good fit, and the softness that you've been wanting, but never received from those sandpaper excuses for t-shirts. These shirts, like the golf polo that I'm rocking right now, and some of their t-shirts, their athletic wear, so soft, high quality material, also very stylish, and you'll never want to stop wearing what True Classic has to offer. They don't stop at shirts though. One-stop shop for all things menswear, and they make it super easy to build out your wardrobe. If you're worried about sizing, True Classic leaves no man behind, like I just got done saying. For any of the bigger boys out there, they have long-bodied options, and for the tall guys, long body, triple XL sizing. Really, it fits everybody for men of all shapes and sizes. Use the promo code CHAT at trueclassictees.com/chat for that deal to apply. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of this video. So going back to the game before we progress forward to Hassan Reddick as well as Trey Sermon, Philadelphia seeking a 5-0 start for just the third time in franchise history. Arizona, on the other hand, I don't think they're a very good football team. A couple of wins this year haven't really impressed me during those games. They are 0-7 in their last 7 games as well, and because that's a fraudulent fan base, you can expect the Eagles Fly family, EAGLES, to take over the stadium there in Glendale. And as Jalen Hurts said, with injuries factoring into this matchup, rain, sleet, or snow, the Eagles train will go, and I think that Eagles train going to continue to move forward against Arizona to set up a great matchup next week in primetime against those Dallas Cowboys, with the Birds hopefully unbeaten on the year. So who you got with this game? Let me know right now. PHI for the Birds, ARI for the wrong Birds. I'm going with the right Birds. I'm going Eagles all day. As for some recognition for Hassan Reddick with how he's been able to play, he has really turned it on over the last 3 weeks. Named NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He was great against Jacksonville with those 2 sacks and those 2 forced fumbles. His last 2 games, 3.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. His 3 forced fumbles this year lead all players defensively in the National Football League. Also has been able to pounce on a couple of those forced fumbles with 2 fumble recoveries. And you know this is a good sign of a quality football team when every single week this year a player has been receiving an accolade for Player of the Week. Week 1, Zach McPherson, NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. Darius Slay, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, 3 consecutive weeks in which they have been the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And Jalen Hurts, through the first month of the year in September, Offensive Player of the Month. So Howie Roseman, that's a credit to him. With how he's been able to build this roster, it's a unit right now, and that's why they are the last unbeaten team in the NFL. Also with Howie Roseman, more credit to him because Field Yates pointing out, and we've said this, that the free agent acquisitions, he's basically hit a home run up to this point on all of them. A.J. Brown, that trade on draft night, he's 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards with 404. Hassan Reddick, 3.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. That leads the NFL. James Bradbury has been one of the better corners in the NFL. 2 picks in that pick 6 in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the ultimate hype man, as Elliott Shore-Parks, my guy, said the other day on Twitter. 17 tackles, and he's played 99% of the snaps at safety. A little bit of slot corner. And then Kaiser White, who I said prior to the year, most underrated signing for this team. 23 tackles. It's 2nd on the team. Last year, he led the Chargers in tackles. All these free agent and offseason acquisitions, whether it be free agency or through trades, they've been home runs for Howie Roseman. So to show him some love, how he do that? Type HR in the comment section. Don't go to HR complaining about Howie Roseman because he's been great. HR for Howie Roseman because he's been absolutely fantastic. So should the Eagles play Trey Sermon more? Let's talk a little bit about that before we hop on out of here. So against Jacksonville, first 2 carries in the midnight green, 2 carries, 19 yards. One of them went for 15, and Trey Sermon popped. Now, Sermon with the 49ers, it's a different offensive scheme, outside zone scheme, where it requires kind of a pinpoint of where the hole is, hit it and go, but also trying to get out to the perimeter, because what the 49ers do better than anybody else really in the NFL with Kyle Shanahan's scheme, they'll move the defense from east to west or west to east, right? Sideways. And then they do a really good job of once they move the field and move the defense from side to side, they get upfield in a hurry. I said when the Eagles claimed Trey Sermon off of waivers, off the 49ers practice squad, I think he's a better scheme fit because the Eagles get more north-south with their running game in a faster fashion. And I think that this Eagles offensive line is obviously the best in the NFL, and that caters to what Trey Sermon does well. He also played with Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma, has some familiarity out of that read option. He ran the read option on that 15-yard pickup, and because the Eagles kind of lack that physical running back, I wouldn't hate seeing more from Trey Sermon if he can continue to prove himself. But if Boston Scott comes back healthy off that rib injury, then you have to figure out what you want to do with that active game day roster. Do you want to have 3 backs? And if that's the case, you probably go Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, as well as Miles Sanders. Do you want 4? Teams often do that. Then you include Trey Sermon to maybe be that short yardage back, even though Miles Sanders, 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards. But then you have to deactivate another player elsewhere from the roster. Maybe it could be like a Grant Calcaterra if you just want to go with 2 tight ends with Jack Stoll as well as Dallas Goedert. So these are the conversations and the decisions that this front office and this coaching staff have to make when it comes down to playing Trey Sermon a little bit more, but I do like what I saw from him on those 2 carries against Jacksonville. Before we hop on out of here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that red subscribe button down below, and if you want to rip me, show me some love, hit me up on social media. I'm on Twitter and IG at Chase_Senior. Greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Philadelphia Eagles Now.